Well, you begin to see a kind of a narrative here that has become detached from George Floyd. This notion of defunding the police kind of makes no sense, because if that was an unjust case produced by bad cops, you would think that the obvious solution is good cops. It would not be no cops. And I don't think that these people mean no cops when they say defund the police. What they really mean is they want to bring the police department to its knees. They want the police ultimately to undergo a kind of transformation to become, if you will, a politically correct police force, a police force that allows the left to get away with lawlessness when it wants to, and maybe even a police that is mobilized against the political opponents of the left. So I think they want to remake the police, not really get rid of them, turn the police into instruments of their ideological agenda.
Vice President Joe Biden and Attorney General Eric Holder in Philadelphia to announce funding for local police. Thanks to the National Community-Oriented Policing Services, or COPS program, Delaware will get $5 million for hiring and rehiring officers. The money pays for the salaries and benefits of policemen for 3 years. Biden says the money will help Delaware keep streets safe.
Throughout the Mid-Atlantic region, we're providing more than $75 million to more than 50 departments to hire and retain an additional 350 police officers.
Delaware will get funding for 24 officers, 16 of which will be assigned to the Wilmington Police Department. Nationwide, $1 billion will be spent on the program, which plans to help keep agencies continue community policing during this economic downturn.
I know the members of this Congress are concerned about crime, as are all the citizens of our country. But I remind you that last year we passed a very tough crime bill. Longer sentences, 3 strikes and you're out, almost 60 new capital punishment offenses, more prisons, more prevention, 100,000 more police. And we paid for it all by reducing the size of the federal bureaucracy and giving the money back to local communities to lower the crime rate. There may be other things we can do to be tougher on crime, to be smarter with crime, to help to lower that rate first. Well, if there are, let's talk about them and let's do them. But let's not go back on the things that we did last year that we know work. That we know work because the local law enforcement officers tell us that we did the right thing, because local community leaders who've worked for years and years to lower the crime rate tell us that they work. Let's look at the experience of our cities and our rural areas where the crime rate has gone down and ask the people who did it how they did it. And if what we did last year supports the decline in the crime rate, and I am convinced that it does, let us not go back on it. Let's stick with it, implement it. We've got 4 more hard years of work to do that.
Biden-Hatch crime bill, as it becomes law, God willing, I hope that we will have ended, once and for all, this notion that is a hangover from the 60s, that somehow Democrats are weak on crime and Democratic presidents are weak on crime and Republicans are tough on crime. The truth is, every major crime bill since 1976 that's come out of this Congress, every minor crime bill, has had the name of the Democratic senator from the state of Delaware, Joe Biden, on that bill. I like the idea they keep in jail longer. I'm the guy that wrote the bill requiring federal judges to keep people in jail 100% of the time for which they're sentenced, and the notable exceptions only 85%. So I'm all for tougher enforcement.
Rewrote the statute saying burning the flag in and of itself is a crime, period. Boom.
We changed the law so that if you are arrested and you are a drug dealer, under our forfeiture statutes, you can, the government can, take everything you own Everything from your car to your house, your bank account, not merely what they confiscate in terms of the dollars from the transaction that you've just got caught engaging in. They can take everything. We have laws in the last several years where we don't allow judges discretion to sentence people. Flat time sentencing. You get caught, you go to jail. We've gone from there all the way up to saying, under the leadership of Senator Thurmond, and I'd like to suggest that I take some small credit for it myself as well, and others, the presiding officer, that there is now a death penalty. And we passed it a couple years ago. If you are a major drug dealer involved in the trafficking of drugs and murder results in your activities, you go to death. And a number of other severe penalties.
Back when Bill Clinton's crime bill passed, Joe Biden was such an outspoken supporter, he said, quote, "I'd like to be running and have someone use the crime bill against me."
Surplus military equipment for law enforcement. They don't need that. The last thing you need is an up-armored Humvee coming into a neighborhood. It's like the military invading. They don't know anybody. They become the enemy. They're supposed to be protecting these people. So my generic point is that...
Do we agree that we can redirect some of the funding?
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things that we also need to be doing is fundamentally changing the way, and I've been pushing it for years, changing the way we deal with our prison system.
We must take back the streets. It doesn't matter whether or not the person that is accosting your son or daughter or my son or daughter, my wife, your husband, my mother, your parents. It doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter or not whether or not they had no background that enabled them to become socialized into the fabric of society. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I don't want to ask what made them do this. They must be taken off the street. That's number one. There's a consensus on that. Unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I yield myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized. They literally have not had an opportunity. We should focus on them now. If we don't, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now. And Madam President, we have predators on our streets that society has, in fact, in part because of its neglect, created. Again, it does not mean because we created them that we somehow forgive them or do not take them out of society to protect my family and yours from them. They are beyond the pale, many of those people. Beyond the pale. And it's a sad commentary on society. We have no choice but to take them out of society. And the truth is, we don't very well know how to rehabilitate them at that point. That's the sad truth. I'm the guy that said, rehabilitation, when it occurs, we don't understand it and notice it.
Bobby Rush, member of Congress, said the other day, "I'm ashamed that I voted for the '94 crime bill." You ashamed of that bill?
Not at all. And in fact, I drafted the bill.
Here are some of the reasons these officers are here today. Surviving a violent ambush in the pitch-black woods while confronting an escaped felon convicted of sexual assault. Engaging in hand-to-hand combat to take down someone seen trying to blow up a gas station near a major international airport. Storming an underground bunker to rescue a kidnapped 5-year-old boy. Braving a hail of gunfire to protect victims of domestic violence. One of these officers, in protecting the public, took out a suspected cop-killing bank robber with what was described as a 1 in a million shot. Another stopped a shooter by returning fire through the windshield of his patrol car while making sure to wear his seatbelt. One jumped a fence during his own Father's Day celebration when a boy screamed that someone was trying to kill his mom. He saved both the mother and her son, and now that little boy says he's thinking about becoming a cop as well. And there are officers here who were in the thick of 2 attacks last year: the shooting at the Washington Naval Yard and the bombing at the Boston Marathon. On those awful days, and we all remember them, amid the smoke and the chaos, the courage of these officers shone through, and their quick thinking and level-headedness undoubtedly saved lives. Their willingness to put themselves in danger to protect others answered the prayer of Americans watching all across the country. So heroism like this can come with great sacrifice. Some of the officers here today sustained serious injuries in the line of duty. They were shot or stabbed. Some lost friends, even a partner. Some are still recovering. There's one person who should be here today but isn't, Officer Dennis Simmons of the Boston PD. Last year, Officer Simmons was injured in an explosion during that gun battle after the Boston Marathon bombing, and just a few weeks ago he died while on active duty. Dennis's partner, Officer Jean-Gerard Jean-Louis, is here. So are members of his family, including his parents, Dennis and Roxanne. And our sorrow at your loss is matched only by our gratitude for your son's service and sacrifice. And I told the family before I came out here, he will not be forgotten. So what these officers do is dangerous. They do it because it's important. Maintaining the public safety is the foundation of everything that is good that happens every single day in America. It's why parents can send their kids to school and adults can head off to work, and community centers and houses of worship can open their doors to one and all, and businesses can start and thrive. And that's why people can cast their votes and express their views without fear. It's one of the reasons people travel and do business in these United States. And that's why Americans everywhere owe a debt to our nation's law enforcement. And we have to do our part by making sure all of you have the resources and protections and support that you need to do your job well. That's our end of the bargain. That's what I'm going to keep on fighting for every day that I have the honor of serving as your president, and that's what Joe Biden is going to work every day as long as he has the honor of serving as your vice president. So on behalf of all the American people, thank you. There are people alive today because of you. You may not even know their names, but we do, and we're proud of you. God bless you. God bless your families, and God bless the United States of America.
They become the enemy.
They take risks to protect the community, protect the people they don't know, protect people they've never met.
They become the enemy.
But they go out there and you all do it anyway, regardless of whether or not, where they're from, who they are, whether you know them or not. And today is a day for them as well, all those officers, a day that every man and woman in uniform should feel extremely proud of themselves, not just the men standing and women standing behind me.
I never even thought, you know, this is in the innocent days. Who wrote the Patriot Act? Because we know who wrote the Stimulus Act, and that was the Apollo Alliance. We looked it up. Does anybody here in the audience know who wrote the Patriot Act or when it was written? This will blow your mind. It was written in 1995. 1995, including the wiretapping and everything else. America, you know who wrote it? One of the biggest union guys of them all, Joe Biden.